Hi, this is Andy Seeley with Creatively Disruptive, and this is another episode of A Family Business, and we're talking with the amazing Chris Campbell. It's nice to see you, Chris.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for having me.
And Chris is the owner of or partner in Gemini Gymnastics. Chris, funnily enough, was the very first customer that we had in gymnastics. And as a digital marketing company, a really funny story is Chris found us through a letter that I mailed her. So she didn't respond to a Facebook ad or a Google ad. She responded to a handwritten letter well, maybe it wasn't handwritten. It was typed out, but it was signed that I sent out to her, about 9 years ago.
Yeah, going into the 2016 Summer Games.
Yeah. So lots of history there and lots of growth, lots of change, lots of good things have happened in your business. And I'd love to explore a little bit about that. So first up, let me ask you this question. Tell us a little bit about who you are and your business, and maybe a little bit about what makes your business so special.
Well, I'm Chris Campbell, and I'm the founder of Gemini Gymnastics Academy in LaGrange, Illinois. What makes us special? One of our core values is people first. And so I had worked coaching gymnastics as an after-school job in high school and then in college and home from summer breaks. And when I graduated from college, I worked for a medical journal for a couple of years, and I just really missed working with kids and coaching. And so while I was not an amazing gymnast myself, I was in love with the sport and the teaching part, but I didn't want to work in a school. And I come from a long line of teachers that at the time they were like, don't do it. Don't go into the classroom. So going back to the gym seemed like a natural thing to do. I don't know. I worked at the gym that my younger sister kind of grew up in, and then met who is now my program director and an amazing lifelong friend, Nicole King. And then that wasn't really a good fit for us anymore. So we went together to a different gym in the Chicagoland area. And on day one of that job, I was like, oh man, I need to figure out something else because this is not going to work. And because we were coaching in the JO program at the time, which is now the developmental program, we knew like all of the Chicagoland gyms in the area and what their vibe and what their style was. And I was like, there is not a place for us. The coaching philosophies just didn't mesh. And I was like, we're just going to have to do this on our own. And so Gemini Gymnastics Academy was born, and I bought a bunch of equipment from a gym that was closing in Kentucky, stored it in 3 different locations, and then opened in the summer, actually June 13th of 2005. So we're about to celebrate our 20th anniversary.
Wow, 20 years.
I know, right? It's either been the blink of an eye or a long, strange trip, depending on the moment that you catch me.
Yeah, right.
I will say starting in the summer was really brutal. We have this local thing called a pet parade. And so I had all my friends and family wear pink and green Gemini shirts and pass out all these flyers, like it's registration after the pet parade. And that day we had 2 kids sign up. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? This is a disaster. Maybe this was a bad idea. And I remember celebrating the little milestones of like getting to 25 students. And my mom brought flowers and a balloon, and that was on the front desk. And by November of that year, I was like, all right, Nicole, it's time. I can't teach all these kids by myself because I think we had like 120 students. And so we started off in a really tiny little gym. We had an awful landlord. We got tons of rain. And when we moved to the facility we're in now, we got 100 new students that week that we opened here. And we kind of haven't looked back. I think people like us because of that people first experience that they have. And we're also not a stinky gym. So when you walk in the door, it smells clean and fresh and not like children's feet, which is...
There's a very common theme about the gyms that I know that have had success. The common theme is cleanliness.
Yeah, you actually have to clean all the time. It's a thing.
Because I think it shows a little bit of discipline and a little bit of care. You care about the business that you're in and care about the people that work in it and care about the people that are paying to be there.
Sure. Well, and you're spending so much time here yourself. Like, why do you want to be in a gross environment?
Right. Well, I think it shows a mindset. It's a little bit like the person that gets up every morning and makes their bed. Some people don't.
It's like a respect issue, I think.
Right. Self-respect issue, probably.
Yeah, self-respect and respect of others.
I know you kind of touched on a little bit, but what do you think inspired you to start this business? Like, what really was that moment that was like, you know what, I'm going to do it? Was it a moment, or did it kind of gradually happen to you? Was it like a eureka aha moment or a process?
It was kind of both. Because when I was unhappy where I was originally working, you pay a little bit more attention when you go to meets to interact with other coaches and their kids and see what it's all about. And I just didn't really like what I was seeing. I didn't like how the coaches were talking to their athletes. And there were a couple times where I went up to people and I was like, what are you doing? How can you say that to these kids? That was not really well received. And so when you realize that there is not a place for you, and then you try a different gym, and in the first 5 minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? It's kind of a compilation of the slow evolution of I should do this on my own. There's not a home for me. And then also the realization of like, I just started this job 5 minutes ago and I already know it's a miss. So, why not?
You needed to create your own environment, basically.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, like, I guess pun intended, like I wanted to do it exactly how I saw it not be done. Everything that was a miss, I was like, we're doing it the exact opposite way.
Yep. Well,
and that worked.
It has worked. It's worked really well, and you've done really well. So what do you think of all the nearly 20 years, what do you think is the proudest moment that you feel that you've had with your business?
Gosh, there are a couple, I suppose. One is maybe a little bit silly. In 2019, we got a new spring floor and we had to put it together ourselves. Many of those people that were part of that project are no longer with us, largely because of the pandemic, and we had to lay everybody off and they moved on. But that project was so amazing to be a part of because we were kind of like a colony of ants. Everyone just like did what they needed to do. And then they were like, okay, now I'm going to move on to this and do that. And it was like a finely oiled machine. And it was amazing to see because that was not what I was expecting. And that was really cool to be a part of. I suppose another thing was just surviving the pandemic. Because we literally had to like lay off 40 people and put the business into a coma and then hope that it was going to work out after the fact. And
you
then
did quite well getting through that. You guys were very...
I learned how to pivot.
Yeah. And being in Illinois, you're in a state where there was a little bit more harder lockdowns than in other states, Illinois, California, New York, and so forth. And for you to be able to navigate that probably was quite a learning experience too. 1,000%.
The learning curve was pretty steep. And I guess actually earlier tonight, we did a sip and shop at a local boutique in our town. And there were like surprise guests that I wasn't expecting. And they were, I remember them as kids that took classes and kind of grew up through the program. And then a lot of them went on to work for us. And I was not expecting to see them show up. And now some of them are like, oh, I'm 30 years old and I'm getting my PhD. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So it makes you feel really old, but that was cool.
That is cool. I know we've got a couple of kids that I remember were in our program when they were like 3 and 4 years old that are now like nursing practitioners and stuff, It's like crazy. Yeah. It's really good to see. And most of them often happens with gymnastics, especially gymnastics, is they become quite successful. Those pre-teamers and those team kids and everything, they become quite driven, successful kids. It's really good to see. So what do you think, your customers say they love most about what you guys do? If I was to go and talk to one of your customers, what do they typically say about you guys?
They really love our staff. They're super kind. They are passionate when they're teaching kids. They're fun. They really bring a lot of personality to the experience. I think they also enjoy that we take great pride in keeping our facility really, really clean. We have people cleaning throughout the day. And then right now we have a cleaning company in the background vacuuming. They come every night. And we do monthly themes that are really fun. And people look forward to see what's going to be on the wall under the Gemini logo right when we walk in the door. Like, what's the theme of the month? Are there going to be stickers on the floor? What's hanging from the ceiling? We try to keep it fun.
Try to keep it fun. That's cool. What do you think was the single biggest move that you made that made the biggest difference in your success? Because you've had like in the last 5, well, I would say 6 years or 7 years that I've known you, 8 years that I've known you, 9 years I've known you, you really hit some success. So what do you think is that single biggest difference to you?
I'm going to give you 2. One is a moment that I think you're going to remember quite well. Because we originally started in the summer, I stole the idea of a summer flexi schedule from the gym that I had worked at. And that gave families flexibility where they didn't have to sign up for a series of weeks in a row. They could pick and choose whatever they wanted to do based on their schedule. People loved it for the flexibility. It was a nightmare on the back end, as you might imagine. But also, I will never forget the day when I'm on a Zoom with you and you're like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. During the school year, you have a certain student body, and then school gets out and you drop your enrollment down to 0. And I was like, uh-huh. And you're like, and then you make people jump through hoops to sign back up for the summer. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, we do. What am I doing? So that was a huge thing to get rid of and just have enrollment be year-round. Once you're in, you're in.
The opt-out game, right? We want them to opt out. We don't
want them to opt out.
We don't want to opt them out and then ask them to opt back in.
That was a huge one.
I remember that. It's funny how there's little moments, and it's funny how people, in many businesses, they do things and they think, well, this is how it's done. And then when somebody else, because I think as much as I might have said to you, hey, why are you doing this? I think as I was saying it, you were like realizing, why am I doing this? You were coming to the same conclusion as me very quickly. And I think a lot of small business owners, very often, they get caught in this is kind of how we do things. And they don't put a lot of thought about why they do things or what those repercussions are. And I think one of the biggest things that I want to give you loads of credit on, because you've always done this, is you've always looked at being very open. Like you have a lot of reasons to think, you know what, I'm successful. I've done some good things. I know what I'm doing. You have a lot of room to be able to say, hey, I know what I'm doing. But I think one of the credits that I would give you is that and sometimes it's a cross you bear as much as the positive that you have, is that you're always second guessing yourself. You're always going, okay, is this the best thing to do? Should I be doing this? Is there something better to do? I need to be prepared. I need to research this. I need to look into this. I need to really make sure that what I am doing is the right thing and I'm going to do the best decision that I can. And that's a really good trait. And I think, the fact that you started working with us, and just so anybody who's listening to this knows, when I first started working with Chris, it was more of a consultative thing. The ad that you responded to was for a website, but then it turned into consulting and talking about marketing and talking about business and talking about all those things. And we kind of dug through everything in the business. I remember even holding your hand when you were firing somebody who was a big player in your business. This was a long time ago, who was like your general manager or whatever. And that was really difficult and uncomfortable for you. But what I think is a real positive, and I think many business owners should think about it and how they operate themselves, is, are you open to learning new things? Be strong on the things you know, but question the things that you know, question the things that you do, even the ones that you think are the right things, because maybe there's a better way to go about it. And there's no way that you can find a better way if you're not at least open to questioning the things that you think are the ways that you should do. What is your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. I think I shy away from really doing things however the way other gym or children's activity centers do it, because I think a lot of it is antiquated and they get stuck in that rut of this is how we've always done it, so this is why we're going to continue to do it that way. I love to listen to podcasts and read books from like all sorts of different industries that have nothing at all to do with gymnastics, to see what I can pull and bring to Gemini to make it better. So I can't recommend that enough, because it's all the little differences that can set you apart that really are a big deal. The biggest thing that was a difference maker and really moved the needle was when I stopped coaching. And I only worked on the business.
Yeah.
And that was hard, because like you open the gym because you love kids and you want to work with them and teach them, but it's hard to do both things, especially well. And so when I stepped back from the teaching part and just worked on the business instead of in it, we doubled in 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, golly, This
think
could have been way more successful and less of a very expensive hobby if I had done this sooner.
this is a very common thing that all the gym owners that I've interviewed today, or for the It's a Family Business episodes, all of them have said the same thing. Every single one of them have said, when I decided to become the captain of the ship and deciding where I'm taking the ship, all of a sudden the ship started going where I wanted it to go and started to make progress. Before that, I was behaving, I use this analogy all the time, is, if you're the captain of the ship, but you're spending most of your time swabbing the decks and pulling up sails and painting the boat and doing all of those things that your crew should be doing, no one's sitting in the captain's chair charting the direction of the company and where you want to go and what rocks you need to miss and where the channels are and where the best headway is and where the wind is and where do I want to arrive. If you're not doing that, no one can do it. You can't actually hire someone. I know you ended up hiring a general manager at one point that gave you a lot of success, and Tony Colano with Ninja Monkeys or Monkey Ninjas, or I can't remember what it is, but Tony's really great in himself, but even you can't hire him. He's going to manage the operations of the business. He's still not going to be the skipper of the ship charting the direction of where it needs to go. It needs to have somebody. And that is such a common thing that I hear. I don't know of any gym owner that is successful that hasn't decided at some point, I need to be a business owner. I need to focus on hiring, culture, finances, goals, all of that stuff that businesses need to move forward. I mean, that's a tremendous thing to share. And I think it's the common thread that I see with everything. Even non-kids activity center businesses that we work with, the ones where the baker is just baking, he always struggles, opposed to the baker that actually is looking at his numbers and looking at his staffing and looking at his branding and looking at his marketing and has goals that he's set and is trying to hit them and is running a business. He's going to be more financially successful. Maybe he's not as happy because he's not kneading and rolling his bread, but financially he's doing really, really well, and the business is probably doing really, really well. But I guess occasionally, if you want to, you could teach a class. I'm sure you probably, on occasion, teach a class still, or no?
No, but it's great to walk into the gym and see somebody that's struggling and be like, oh, can I help you? I mean, they say yes, then you work with them for a few minutes and then they're like, oh, I can do it. And you give them a high five and they're smiling, and that's amazing.
Do you think life became better when you started operating that way, or do you feel like you've missed something by not coaching?
I think you just coach differently. Instead of coaching the kids in the gym, now you're coaching either the coaches or your front desk staff,
so
or
you still
whoever
get
else.
that.
You can still scratch that itch. It's maybe not as fun,
right,
as working with kids.
But maybe you're scratching more kids back, the itch of affecting more kids.
Like the spiderweb effect. Yeah. It's a good way to think about it.
Before you started working with us, what would you say was the main thing that you were struggling with, that you were unsure about and that you were like really struggling with before you met us, before you started working, or doing anything with me?
I have to roll it back a bit there. Well, I do vividly remember getting the piece of snail mail about, is your website ready for,
Rio.
Was it? Rio?
Ready?
And I was like, actually, it's not. It's really not. And so I kind of carried that around with me in my bag for, I don't know, a couple weeks. And then I don't even remember. Did I call? Did I email? I don't know. But I was concerned about the website for sure. And if we were Rio ready. And I think that was the first thing that you guys helped us with, getting ready for the Summer Olympic boom.
I mean, but major things that you were struggling, what were you struggling with? I remember one of the things, if I can bring it up and you can verify
Be my guest.
was how much you were paying yourselves. Like you were paying yourselves pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
Right? You're pretty much working for free for the business.
Mm-hmm.
That's a struggle. That's not 100% great. I mean, you were paying a mortgage and building equity and assets, but you weren't really paying.
Not bringing
yourself
home a lot. Yeah,
No.
That's for sure.
All right. So what would you say surprised you the most about, when you started working with us? What was it that surprised you? What was that kind of veil or that difference that was like, oh, wow, this happened?
Well, you don't know what you don't know. And so I knew nothing about website design. Russell was amazing. I knew nothing about social media marketing. You were amazing with that. Just the amount of details and what you need to know to be able to pull it off successfully. That was pretty eye-opening. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to know how to do this really. I mean, you need to know how to do it enough so you can understand it. But like, I had really very little interest in trying to be like, well, now that I know that, I'm going to go run into the back office and do it. Like,
Right.
And you were actually one of the people that opened my eyes to like surround yourself with a bunch of experts and outsource as much as you can.
Yeah.
And that was also super pivotal because once we were able to do that, it's easier to not look back. Like,
That gets back to that being the captain of the ship and not the crew, right? It's like Usain Bolt might have run the race by himself, but he still had a team of 20 odd people like coaches and massage therapists and probably psychologists and support staff to help him be all he can be so he could run that sub 10-second 100-meter sprint. The tennis player who wins Wimbledon doesn't do it by themselves. They've got a whole bunch of people that support them. And I truly do believe that a business that serves you is a team sport. You've got to have really experts in every area, and you want to search for people that are better than you in each area. And then you just be the person that kind of makes the decisions. And if you have all these experts that are better than you at the different things that you need to be good at, taking care of those things, then everything is great. And you just monitor it, and you're just making sure that everyone's doing the things that they're doing and pushing in the direction that you want to. But I think that's one thing I've always been impressed with you, is that you're totally okay. And it's unusual with small business owners, especially founders, to understand your limitations and go, you know what? I'm not the right person to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm going to find somebody who's better than me to do it, and I'm going to have them do it. You've always been reasonably good, at least the 9 years that I've known you, at coming to that conclusion and actually moving in that direction. And I think that's, especially in the kids activity center realm, a lot of time there's a lot of control that is uncomfortable to let go of, and being able to understand, hey, if I let go of this, maybe not totally disengage from it, but let somebody else be responsible for it and then check in on them, you can actually get a better result.
Yeah, 100%.
So that was my little monologue there about letting things go. So how has, going through the self-serving stuff that I'm doing right now about talking about, us, but how has working with Creatively Disruptive changed your business, or even just your day-to-day? What have we done over the years?
Well, I think we're pretty solid on having saturated the market with our brand, which is pretty cool. Having people see ads before they even meet us because you're dialed into the right demographics, then they don't even know. But when their kid is old enough, they're going to be like, yeah, we're taking them to Gemini. That's pretty awesome. I guess just the support, especially on the website side, like, could I make the changes myself? Sure. But again, it's like, that's not what I do. So outsource that. I think when we were doing like in the Wayback Machine, I think it was helpful to get us to, our goal was 1,000 kids. And I think the marketing piece definitely helped us. I think it was maybe tricky for us to figure out exactly how much of it was coming from that with the stupid Pixel and iClass Pro and the interfacing of that. But we certainly hit that mark, and that was a big deal.
Changes, I always look at it as there's changes that you made, and whatever the changes were, worked. Because you made changes to what you were doing previously. Because I think when we first started working with you, you had like 450 kids or something. I think you topped out at maybe 500. And within 2 or 3 years, we got to 1,000. And you made a couple of changes. There was 2 or 3 changes that you made, and that almost doubled your... But then something happened, which I think I'd love you to share if you can, because this is my real goal. When we have a sales call, when a client, you could call it a sales call, when someone first reaches out to us, we don't call it a sales call, we call it a revenue growth session, because we're not looking to figure out what marketing you want. We want to figure out, what is your revenue? What is your profit? Where do you need to be? Where do you want to be? What do we need to do to figure that out? And sometimes there's stuff that we can actually help with that doesn't cost anything, and we'll give you that advice. Or, hey, here's some things that you can do, and here's our involvement in it. One of the things I think you did, which was tremendous, and is really my goal for gyms, is the increase in enrollment is step one. Once you get to a max out point or a point that you're kind of happy with the number, the real benefit is the raising of prices. When we first started working together, Chris, I think you were charging like $90 a month, $85 a month. I remember. I know you're
Something like that.
You're not even close to that now, right? You're close to probably twice that now. And that difference is almost, it changes the staff that you can have. It changes your income. Instead of hardly paying yourself, you actually pay yourself. Improvements, all sorts of things change in your business when you get to that point where you've got your enrollment where you want it to be, but then you keep marketing, you keep that branding because you keep raising prices. And when you raise prices, you lose some people, right? And then you replace them immediately because you've got waiting lists and you keep that pump primed. And I know that was a process that you went through.
That was definitely a process. And I think the pandemic also kind of forced our hand to make some tough choices because I never really subscribed to like a membership that was like a set amount of time, but it was quite popular depending on who you talked to. And it was like, oh, well, you could have a 6-month membership or a 9-month or a 12-month. And I was like, people should be able to come and go when they want. That doesn't really feel Gemini, was my response a lot of times. And then as we came back to having in-person classes in the gym, I was like, you know what? Maybe we do want to do a 12-month membership and then also have a month-to-month rate. And when we initially started that, it was split about 50-50, people choosing either option. And now most people pay the month-to-month rate. Very few, maybe 10% of our clients do the 12-month membership where they get reduced tuition every month because they're making that commitment to us. But that was a game changer. And I will say it is often hard to set the proper tuition amount because you want to charge what you're worth and charge for the experience that you're providing and be able to afford to align yourself with all of these different professionals that you need to be a fully operational battle station, if you will. But then there was a time where we wanted to cull the herd by about 200 kids because we were like, I think 1,150 students, and everyone had their own designated spot in the gym and the rotations worked. And we ended up having like a rash of upper extremity injuries in like a 6-month period where I was like, no one is even doing something that's crazy for them. Like a teen kid did a round off and broke their arm. What is going on? And we did some consulting with third level consulting to be like, what do you think is going on? And we decided, we thought it was like a beehive effect, that there were too many people in the space, even though everyone had their own space, that it was like too busy and people couldn't concentrate. Okay. So then we're like, all right, we're going to cull the herd. We want to get 200 less students. So we raised tuition. We lost 15 families. And I was like, that's how you know that you're leaving massive amounts of money on the table because you wanted to lose 200. Like, what is going on? So that can be tricky to get that just right. And I think, when people are calling and they're like, that's too much. When you have about 25% of people responding with that, then you're probably right where you need to be. Because as soon as you charge $1, you're pricing somebody out. Right. So don't be afraid to be, I guess, the most expensive gym in town, but you also have to provide the value that is appropriate. Most
kids' activity centers don't charge the value. I don't know of any parent that wants to save money by going to gymnastics. Let's save some money. I'll send my kid to gymnastics or swim school or whatever. They do it because they're wanting something for their kid. And if that organization can deliver that value and help their kid be all they can be, parents will pay almost anything for it. And if it's a high quality with high quality tuition and a high quality organization, they'll pay even more and they'll be proud of it even. And I think that's something really good that you're sharing, that's really good for people to understand, that it's about value, not about how much you charge. Because, hey, if you can be charging $400 a month for a kinder gym class and the parents think it's amazing, that's not a bad thing. Not that you are charging $400 for a
I am not. I'll let you know.
So let me ask one final question, just a little bit of a testimonial, I guess, for us. So what would you say to somebody who's thinking about doing a revenue growth session with us? What would you say to somebody about that?
Why not? Like, absolutely do it. It's not going to hurt you. You're probably going to learn a lot, and you don't know what you don't know. And you're an expert. I've learned so much from you. I've learned so much from you.
Good. Well, thank you. I've learnt lots from you too. So it's been a mutual thing. So let's have a little bit of fun. So if your business was an animal, what would it be and why?
All right. I just saw an Instagram reel that I sent my 15-year-old son the other day. I'm going to go with capybara because
Gosh, okay.
he saw that this animal just walks into the water that's full of hundreds of crocodiles and just doesn't care. I can't remember all the details of the thing, but I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so actually, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was like, yeah, I think the answer to that is capybara, because we have had some instances like when we used to be one building to the north and we hadn't yet secured this space. And I was like, but there's this Halloween walk and we need to advertise that we're moving and it's going to be awesome. And our attorney was like, that is a terrible idea. Do not do that. You don't know if you're going to be there. And I was like, but I think we're going to be. He was like, you don't know. Like, do not advertise that. And I was like, sometimes you have to run like an antelope out of control. So maybe it's an antelope. But I guess like when I saw that capybara walking into the water with all those crocodiles, I was like, yeah, sometimes you just have to not care. Like sometimes you're just like, and now this is happening.
Just do it, right? Just move forward. What do you think is one behind the scenes moment that just makes you laugh when you think about it with your business? Like something that happened in your business that just makes you laugh.
Is it really funny? Or is it like...
I don't know. Is it funny? Is there something that's ever made you laugh with your business? Either laugh with oh my gosh, or laugh with that's so funny.
If I'm honest, we've probably had more oh my gosh moments. Like one thing, I kind of feel bad about even telling the story. We had this young woman, she was working the front desk, and I was in a hurry, and I needed, I don't know what it was, maybe a bill, I don't even know. And I just walked past her and I was like, hey, can you please put a stamp and a return address stamp on this? So I'm talking like postage stamp and then with the return address. And she's holding this envelope and she's just looking. And then my sister comes by a couple seconds later and she's like, Chris handed me this and she asked me to do this and I don't know what she's talking about. And Carrie was like, well, what do you mean you don't know? And so we were kind of flabbergasted that someone that was like in their 20s didn't know what to do with a piece of mail to get it to go through the United Postal Service. I guess that probably means that we're real old. But
yeah,
I was like, you also receive mail, right? Like, have you never looked at these things? So, I mean, that was like funny, sad, but I will never forget that.
It's a little bit like not knowing what a CD is or a tape deck is or a record player is or, you know.
Well, yeah, but people don't really use those anymore. People still get mail. So that's why I was like, what is going on?
Maybe she doesn't pay any bills.
Maybe. But I mean, we do pay pretty well.
So here's my last question, a little bit of a thought-provoking question I'm going to throw at you. We'll see what you're going to say. So what's one thing you believe small business owners should be thinking about, but probably aren't?
Unreasonable hospitality. Is that your book?
That's Unreasonable Hospitality book right there.
I love that book.
Yeah.
I listened to Simon Sinek's podcast, A Bit of Optimism, and that's how I found out about that book. And in that podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a restaurant tour, but that's kind of what we're trying to do with Gemini. So a lot of people don't realize that we're in the service industry. Yep. And so you have to really like pay attention to what is going on around you. And anytime that you have the opportunity to give someone a dirty water hot dog, you should take it.
Anybody that wants to know what she means by that should read the book.
You're going to have to read the book.
It's a great book, and it's basically about thinking about the little things that make a difference, and it's oftentimes those little things that make all the difference. And I highly recommend it. That's really good advice because I recently spoke about this to Sandy McGee about delighting people, right? There's two emotions that are quite equal, and it's anger and delight. And one is a happy and one is an unhappy emotion, but both of them have the same outcomes, right? So if I delight you or anger you, you're going to tell people about it. You're going to write reviews. You're going to remember it, and it's going to come back at some point to you,
Mhm.
right? When we do this ourselves, we actually do a thing every Thursday in our all hands meeting where the whole team gets together on Zoom and we talk about who's delighted somebody this week, or do you know of one of the team that has delighted someone? Because oftentimes they don't want to say, oh, I delighted anybody. Like someone else has to talk about it. And that search of delighting our clients should be ongoing, and that unreasonable hospitality is a part of that journey to constantly be delighting people, where they have that moment of excitement and, oh my God, I can't believe Chris just did this to me. I need to tell my friends about it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I just had this experience at Gemini and I've got to write a review about it. It's the same thing as when someone is angry. So if we are pursuing delight and really looking to delight people, we actually never anger people. And if we can turn that as business owners as part of the culture, and I work really hard to try to make sure Creatively Disruptive has that delight thing going, and we sometimes fail and make mistakes and so forth, but if the goal is to just try to delight, if the goal is to try to look after people and look for those things, I think you really can separate your business from others. I know for a fact, knowing how you guys operate, because my son's gone to classes at your gym, that you guys really do. That's an important thing. You might not have thought about it from that delight standpoint, but I know that's part of how you guys are operating, to separate yourself from those other gyms, right?
Yeah.
So a little bit of what I would suggest you do, challenge your staff to delight somebody at least once a week. Now, if you've got 20 staff members, that means 20 people involved with Gemini is going to be delighted every week, 80 people a month, 960 a year. You start really causing a lot of amazing things to happen and a lot of goodwill. Anybody who's watching this, I challenge you to challenge your staff and challenge yourself to go out there and try to delight some people. And you start doing that. It comes back to yourself as well. It's really good. So with that, we'll wrap this up. It's been lovely talking to you. It always is. Thank you for sharing a lot of information, a lot of stuff about your business. I think it's been really useful and helpful, and I'll hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
Thank you.